he's still working in my life, and he's still good, and he's still doing things that I don't deserve from him. That was such a real example for me of going through one of the hardest seasons I've been through in the last year, to God reminding me, hey, I see you, and I'm there with you, and I am growing you, and I'm not done with you yet.
It was super, super powerful through prayer, and this one lady was just writing everything down that I was saying. And it was super cool, just God really does show up through prayer, especially for me. Prayer has been super, super powerful for me in my story. For sure.
And it's something that I haven't shared yet on the podcast before, but I've had suicidal thoughts before, and I've had a season of my life where I thought that, you know, ending it all was the only thing to do, and that there was only one way out, which was that. And I was one of those people growing up where I didn't think it could happen to me.
I remember one girl, I went up to her, I didn't know who she was, and I was like, I feel like God's calling me to go talk about suicide with her. She was suicidal, and she told me about it after, but like I just prayed over her, like that her life matters, and that she should find help and find the thing that really helped her out. I'm pretty sure she did. I never saw her again.
Welcome back to the Centered Podcast. My name is Garth Wheeler, and today I'm excited to have JD on. JD I've met you through Church of the City, and I've known you from City Students, through Kids City, Sunday School, as a lot of people would probably know it. Yeah. And I'm excited to have you on. You DM'd me, and you've talked to me multiple times about wanting to come on the show, and
Finally here.
I'm excited to have you, especially after our conversation earlier this week of just that phone call and just you explaining your story to me and sharing your testimony. It's extremely powerful, and I didn't expect it at all. It just came out of left field, and I heard it, and I just remember being like, I need people to hear this, and I got to get you on the show. So I appreciate you coming on. You are officially the youngest person that I've had on. You're 16. And I've told my boys, my rising sophomore boys at City Students, that they can't come on the show right now. And so they're definitely going to question me about this decision, but I'm excited to have you here, and I can't wait to get into it. But first and foremost, JD, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah. So the first thing that I want to get into, kind of starting a little bit heavier with your testimony, and it is such a powerful story, and I would just love for you to explain more to the audience and just back to me as well. Why did you want to come on the show so much, and why did you want to share your story so bad?
Yeah, I've shared my story through different podcasts throughout the years, and just with weightlifting and everything, but I mainly reached out just because I love sharing my story and how Jesus has healed me and brought me closer to him, obviously. And I just love sharing my story.
Yeah, 100%.
What I've been through.
Yeah, well, I would love to. I'm sure the audience would love to hear, but I would love to hear again your story and that impact that it had on you.
Sweet. Yeah, well, I was born in Michigan.
Nice.
So
you've always been on this side of the country?
always been at the top.
Yeah.
But I've been all over the U.S. with weightlifting. But I was born in Michigan and grew up there. And I don't know. I'm blanking.
No, you're all good. Did you move? When did you move to Tennessee?
I moved to Tennessee about 4 years ago, I think.
4 years ago?
Yeah.
So what happened in Michigan before you came here? Because your testimony, like what you want to share, started in Michigan, right?
Yeah, it did. So, I grew up in the church. Like, my dad was a pastor, all of that. So I was always around church, and
me too.
We had like 4 or 5 services. So I was there for 5:30 to like 1, 2 p.m.
Was it a really big church?
It was a pretty big church. Yeah, we kind of helped start it and bring it to life. So
okay, that's cool.
That's why my dad started preaching there, and it was just super powerful. Yeah, the way he just came in and helped out. But he was a preacher, or he was a sermon preacher person. 100%. Whatever you call it. So he helped start churches and all of that. They moved from Georgia actually to Michigan. Okay. And then 2019 maybe, like end of 2019, right before COVID, we moved to Tennessee. So it was just super nerve-wracking moving. But right before that, actually, I ended up getting abused, and it was just super, super hard right when we're moving too, because I didn't have any friends. Like moving in Tennessee, just brand new state, middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right in the middle. But yeah, I was just didn't have any friends or didn't really know what to do. Like what was next. And I kind of grew further away from Jesus, and I didn't really just know what to do. So I ended up talking to my dad. My dad has also been through similar stuff with his dad, and just what kind of the similar things that I've been through, and same with my brother. But yeah, so as a family, we've just kind of it's been around since I was born, like, because my dad got abused, my brother got abused, and I've actually been abused twice by my dad's dad, which he's in jail right now. But yeah, him, and then right before he moved, I ended up getting abused again, and he was suicidal, so he ended up having those thoughts, and it's just super hard to go through, and like him threatening those thoughts and those saying those things just to get you down, and like it was, especially he was a small group leader. He was my small group leader, so he was like someone I looked up to, basically. So it just hurt.
Yeah.
So we ended up taking him to court and all of that. I'm pretty sure he paid for what he did, obviously, but yeah, it was just a super lonely time.
100%. Yeah.
But
it's a big deal. How old were you at the time?
I think I was about just turned 13.
Wow.
So
yeah,
that's still young.
It's a lot, especially for a 13-year-old.
Yeah. But we ended up moving here, and I found a few friends, and then a few friends left. It's just part of life, but
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that? What's it like now? Because you're a rising junior, so you're about to be a junior this fall, and you are heavily involved in Church of the City, as am I, and you're in a youth group right now, right? As a junior.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Was that difficult for you getting back into the swing of having a youth leader and building up that trust again with people who were leading you in that small group? Was that a challenge?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. First year, like I didn't come for probably about 4 or 5 months when my sisters didn't go, or my sisters were going and I didn't go. I just decided to stay home, and I just didn't want to go through that again. And I was scared, so I just didn't know what to do. But yeah, I ended up finding Sam. You know Sam Nathan?
Oh yeah, I love Sam Nathan.
And Cassie, yeah. So Cassie works at Church of the City, actually. But he's my small group leader. So.
Oh, great. I love Sam. Yeah, Sam works at Ramsey, which is like right over here. Yep, that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, so he was in my small group, and then another younger dude was JW at the time. He was.
I remember JW as well.
He was also one of my leaders, but I was scared and didn't really know what to expect. So
which is, I mean, that's totally understandable.
Yeah.
And usually when a traumatic thing happens, it takes a lot. Especially, I mean, were you 14 or 15 when you started getting connected into Church of the City?
I think I was about 15, like just 15, turned 15.
Yeah. So I mean, even I'm assuming less than 2 years or 2 years exactly when everything happened. I mean, that's still so young to process all of that, and to see you sitting here as a 16-year-old sharing, like wanting to share your testimony and wanting to be open about it. And I mean, it inspires me. And I was, when we had our conversation earlier this week, I remember just being on the other side of the phone. This was right before another meeting I had, and I was just speechless. Like I didn't know how to gather my thoughts, because I thought it was so inspiring to hear someone so young go through such a traumatic experience and then want to share that. And so I really appreciate you coming on the show and being willing to share this with me and with the audience. I mean, it's inspiring, and your story definitely is impacting lives. And so I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, that's the goal, to inspire others and share my testimony. But
well, I'm sure that, there's a lot of people who might have gone through a similar situation or maybe even going through something.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the things that you implemented into your life to help with navigating those things? Like
Mm-hmm.
because I know you mentioned that you love weightlifting.
Yes,
Was
I
that
do.
one of those things that was able to be implemented into your life that helped you significantly?
Yeah, for sure. Yes, 100%.
When did you start weightlifting?
I started lifting maybe a year after we moved.
Okay.
So we moved in like 2019, 2020, so right before COVID. But yeah, my dad brought me to a CrossFit gym, and
Nice.
I did CrossFit for about 2 years actually.
Nice.
So I did CrossFit, and then I like the weightlifting part of CrossFit,
Mm-hmm.
like the snatch and the clean jerk. And then I found that there's actually USA weightlifting. So you can travel and go to nationals. That was the goal, just the nationals, national level, and you're competing against people all around the world. Last year I competed someone from, I think, Hawaii,
Wow.
which was kind of cool. But yeah, that was just the goal, like getting there, and I just love the weightlifting piece. So I ended up just leaving that CrossFit gym because it was mainly CrossFit, obviously.
Right.
And I ended up doing my own thing, and my dad ended up being my coach after that. So
That's super cool.
it's super cool.
Wow.
And my dad's my coach. So
Wow, that's crazy. And does your dad have like a history with weightlifting?
he doesn't.
Okay,
No, he had to
that's awesome.
learn from the bottom.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, he took, I think, 2 or 3 classes that are just super long, which like inspires me because like with my kids, I'm definitely gonna like
Sure
try to get into their lives more and just inspiring like that he was able to do that.
Yeah, it's cool
after the busyness of his life and all of that. Yeah. I'm one of 12 kids too, so.
Okay, I was gonna ask that because I remember Eliza specifically telling me that there was a lot of you, and I wasn't sure how many siblings.
Yeah, Eliza's my twin, so. Wow. We're twins.
12.
I'm
the oldest of 6, so we're halfway there. But I'm pretty sure we're done. That's incredible. How old is the oldest?
The oldest has just turned 30.
Okay, and the youngest?
The youngest is about to turn 7.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, in September.
How old were your parents when they got married?
I think 19 and 20.
Okay, that makes sense.
So they were young.
Wow.
Younger.
That's incredible. Wow. Yeah. Do you love having a big family?
Yeah, I mean, there's only about 5 in the house right now. But growing up in Michigan, like it was pretty crazy.
Sure.
It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, and that makes sense too. Why having your dad as your coach is such a special thing, because you get to spend so much time with him. Because I mean, having 11 other kids, I'm assuming that's going to be really difficult for him to give time to each one, especially as you guys get older and you guys are doing your own things. And so that's really special. And then with weightlifting, I remember you mentioning that it was an easier process for you to, instead of having to go to therapy and do a lot of stuff with processing what happened to you, rather weightlifting was that for you.
Yeah, weightlifting was kind of like my therapy in a way. I've tried talking to people and therapy, a few different therapists that I've gone through that were the best, and it just didn't seem like my thing. I didn't really like talking about it. Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah. I just didn't really like talking about it. But I ended up doing weightlifting, and that was kind of just what helped me get through those feelings and get my anger out in a way from what happened. So.
Yeah, and that's understandable.
Yeah. I
also know that you mentioned prayer was a significant thing in your life too.
Yes, for sure.
Can you touch on that a little bit?
So right when we moved, and I started getting back in the church with my small group and everything, probably about 3 years after we moved, and I started get into church, I actually did start to get comfortable, like talking. Like I had a few conversations with my brother. He went to Bethel Church in California. But yeah, I just started getting comfortable talking, and my dad introduced me to Freedom Prayer that Church of the City does. And it helped me realize how close God really is in a way. But yeah, it was super, super powerful through prayer and just the things that you were saying. There's a few people in there, but this one lady was just writing everything down that I was saying. And it was super cool. Just even now, like I still have the papers, and it's just basically books of paper.
Wow.
That I have. And it's just like a reminder for me, just going back to it, like through everything, all the pages and everything, that was just super powerful, and like how God really does show up through prayer, especially for me. Prayer has been super, super powerful for me in my story. So
yeah, and I think that guided prayer isn't something that I've really tapped into or taken the opportunity of before, and I think that's super cool, having people prophesy over you and hear you pray and hear you talk about what you're feeling and what you're thinking, and just letting the Spirit move in such a way, I think is really cool. And having someone also who is well versed in the scriptures and is in the Bible and knows it and is able to attest to what you're saying and what you're feeling and what God might be saying in that certain situation, I think is super cool. And I can see why that helped a lot. And that's really awesome. Kind of going back to weightlifting and everything, what's your goals with that? Because I want to talk a little about that, because I can tell that you are really passionate about weightlifting, and I've seen your Instagram, and I've seen that you've held 6 records.
Yeah, I think I hold 6 different records. So the Olympic weightlifting is snatch, clean jerk, and then they also count the total, which is those 2 lifts combined. Yeah. So I hold all 3 in Tennessee, Kentucky, Colorado, Vegas. I think that's it.
Wow.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But I've won nationals 2 times now.
Wow.
And I'm going back for the 3rd, hopefully.
Wow.
Right after, in a few weeks, actually. So
yeah, that's right. Because after we go to summer camp next week, isn't it the following week after that?
Yeah, it's actually a day after. So I get a day rest and then I fly out to Pittsburgh. So,
that's crazy. Yeah. Wow. It's cool to see something that the Lord used in a time of healing and processing just a hard season of your life. It's cool that it's turned from healing from something into a passion of yours, into getting better at and to pursuing. I think that's really cool. Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
I actually have a friend that's going to the 2024 Olympics in the Summer Olympics, so it's coming up.
No way.
But yeah,
is this friend also in weightlifting, or is he in a different sport?
Yeah, no, he's in weightlifting. So
okay.
He's a weightlifting buddy. But hopefully 2027 Olympics. We'll see.
Dude, that'd be crazy. I'll be looking for you.
That'd be crazy. Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow. Do you have any friends in church who are big into weightlifting, or do you kind of feel it's more of a solo thing?
Yeah, it's pretty much a solo thing. Mm-hmm. I do have a bunch of friends that do CrossFit. Nice. Which is
I got a buddy who does CrossFit. You know who you are. That's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, I do have a few friends that do it.
But. Yeah, that's really cool. And kind of going back to, I was planning on touching on this a little bit before going into the weightlifting topic, but I think that now that we're here, we might as well go into it. You mentioned on the phone earlier this week before having this episode that the youth leader that you had was struggling with suicidal thoughts, and that kind of bled into your life after everything that happened between you and him. Yeah. And which makes total sense. And the reason why I wanted to talk a little bit about this, which this is definitely more of a heavier topic, and it's something that I haven't shared yet on the podcast before, but I've had suicidal thoughts before, and I've had a season of my life where I thought that, ending it all was the only thing to do, and that there was only one way out, which was that. And I think that this happens to a lot more people than we expect it to happen to. And I was one of those people growing up where I didn't think it could happen to me. And I went to college for a semester, and that was when I had it the worst. I remember just being on top of a parking garage, looking out and just wondering, like, why keep going? I don't want to keep doing this. And it hasn't been the worst. Like, it hasn't been as bad as it was back then, but it still comes up here and there of just questioning,
for sure.
Questioning that and questioning whether or not that would be a good idea. And is there anything that you want to touch on when it comes to that?
Yeah. Obviously those feelings, they don't go away.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I still get visions and dreams that they're just not that great, and it's just hurtful, I guess. Hurtful visions and stuff. But yeah, he was the guy that abused me. He was also suicidal. So he kind of sparked the things he said, and just all the feelings and stuff that was super heavy, and he kind of sparked those thoughts onto me, like right when we moved. So it was still fresh when we moved, so it was super heavy,
especially moving to a new state.
Yeah,
right after something as significant as that. I mean, it takes a toll on you.
It does, for sure.
Yeah, that, it's a hard thing to process, just those thoughts, because I'm not an expert in all things mental health and why certain things have happened, and I can't give solid answers on what someone could do if they're feeling that certain way. But what are some things that you did to help get out of that mindset of feeling those thoughts or feeling those feelings and having those thoughts? Because I know for me, it was when I switched my situation, and I physically switched my situation, because I ended up dropping out of college after one semester because I didn't want to. Not only was I suicidal, but also I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to spend the money to go to college for something I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I left. And just by switching my situation, that was huge for me, because I moved back to Seattle at the time, and I worked as a truck driver for about 7 months. And for me, working a job that hard and having those experiences and seeing old friends, for me, it was the action of switching my physical situation from going from that place where I was feeling those thoughts and having those desires to now I'm in a different place where I'm not feeling that or having those desires.
For sure.
And it could be the same for some people. It could be different. But what was one thing? Is it just the weightlifting and the prayer that helped you with that season, or was there anything else that helps you kind of get out of that mindset?
Pretty much Olympic lifting and freedom prayer helped, but my brothers and my dad also helped me talk through it, and I didn't have too many friends for a few years after we moved, but I did have a few. But especially being homeschooled, I'm also homeschooled, so
no way.
I don't have too many friends.
Did your parents homeschool all 12 of you?
She did, yes.
What? I need to meet your parents.
Yeah.
She's
awesome.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yep.
Wow, good for them. It's a lot.
It's a lot of grades.
Yeah, a lot of kids.
A lot of kids.
Wow, that's incredible. Would you say that, how's your friend situation now? Would you say that you've had really, really great friends since moving here? Or would you say that that's still something that's forming for you?
I think I have a few good friends. But being, I guess, in the environment that we are, super, not the super rich people, but just that type of environment in Franklin, people change, I guess. So just finding those right people to walk through life with, it's super important to find those people you can share your story with, and share feeling comfortable talking to Jesus, with Jesus, and doing a Bible study or stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's totally normal, because when I was 16, I didn't have friends who were actively trying to pursue Jesus. It was very much us saying that we were Christians and that we were Christian guys, and then
Christians,
right, and then going and doing what we wanted to do, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like in the church for us, when I was 16, saying we were Christian was just a way to get some girls to like us. And you use that term, And so many guys at such a young age don't understand.
A lot of people abuse it.
100%. Yeah. And so I would definitely give yourself some grace, because I remember being 16, and I remember where I was in those friendships, and I look at my friendships now. I'm 23, and a lot of the guys my age now that I'm just so close with, these last 2 nights, Wednesday night I got to hang out with one of my great friends, had an awesome conversations talking about life and God, and then last night had a great dinner with one of my other friends, and so and just talking about life and God, same thing, very similar. And when you get older, you find guys who are actively trying to not only pursue Jesus, but also take life more seriously, and they're trying to help and guide one another into a better situation. And so you're definitely on the up and up, and I can tell that you're more mature than I was when I was 16.
Yeah,
and
I'm trying.
Yeah. You know. Well, hey, you're doing a great job, and I think that it's just going to take time of finding those people. For sure. And, you know, I can't relate to being more mature than my other friends at such a young age, but I can understand where you're at, and you will find those friends that really want to be pursuing Jesus with all their heart, and they want to be pursuing other things other than just girls.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about that you also mentioned was summer camp. So we're going to summer camp next week. And I'm just trying to enjoy this last couple of days of
rest
before which is funny because I'm working all the time, and then next week we're going to be going to camp, and I still have to email some of the pastors at church to find some time that I can work while at camp. It's going to be a week. It's going to be fun, but it's going to be a lot. Yeah. What color are you? What color team are you?
I'm one of the new colors, just gray.
Gray?
Yeah.
No way.
It's weird.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the new colors are pink and gray. But there's like 1,012 or something kids going.
Oh my gosh.
It's insane.
That's crazy.
But
they're splitting up middle school and high school apparently.
Really?
Well, we're all going at the same time, but we're on different time schedules. So we're not all going to be at the dining hall at one time, on the field at one time. It's going to be crazy. Yeah. Whoa, that's a timer. Let's not do that. Last year was insane, and I can only imagine that this year's going to be even crazier.
Last year was.
But what has camp been like for you? Because I remember going to summer camp as 16, 17, 18. I used to go to this camp called Lakeside Bible Camp, and it was back in Seattle. And I remember that just being so much fun, of going with my friends, not having my phone. That was a big thing.
Yes.
And getting to connect with the Lord and actually be still, especially as a high schooler. You know, you're running around doing school. All your free time is with friends, and there's a lot of other things that are grabbing your attention as a high schooler. And so what has camp been like for you? And why do you love summer camp so much? Because that was one thing that you mentioned to me before coming on the show is camp's been a huge thing. And I'd love just to hear your thoughts on camp in general.
Yeah, camp has been super powerful for me, for sure. Last year, actually, I ended up getting not poisoned, but kind of poisoned.
Wait, I remember this.
By my small group. So I'm allergic to red dye.
That's right. Did they put red dye all over you?
No, they put red dye in my orange juice. So they were like, "Are you really allergic to red dye?" So they tested it, and I ended up going to the nurse's office on a golf cart. And then, because I started getting like red and all of that. And my sister
swollen?
Actually, my throat ended up getting swollen. But my sister noticed, like, "You're getting kind of red." I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure they just put red dye in my orange juice."
Oh my goodness.
It was right, like Wednesday morning or something, like 7 a.m. or something. But yeah, I ended up going to the nurse station, and they couldn't stop the swelling in my throat. So they called the ambulance. The hospital was like 30 minutes away, I think.
Oh man.
But they called the ambulance, and then I went to the hospital, and they finally got it.
I remember some kid got hit with a rock too, and he was bleeding in the forehead. We're not doing a great job at telling people how great summer camp is.
No, yeah,
we need to switch it up.
It is great.
What are some great things about summer camp? What keeps you coming back every year?
Definitely the peace, probably. Just
really?
like I don't know, like you obviously don't have your phone, which is amazing. I did wish I had it last year, but
yeah, that makes sense.
I was calling on my Sam's phone. It wasn't good. He's like a tiny phone too.
Oh, did he hit the light phone?
I don't think it was a light phone, but
okay, it was something different.
Was tiny phone.
Sure.
But yeah, it's just the peace that comes with camp and just how much fun it is.
Yeah.
And fun it is learning about Jesus, and I feel like each time I go, it's just God shows up. And I remember last year, it was after everything happened. Like I think it was Thursday night. There was this like huge, like Holy Spirit breakout.
That's right.
And I don't know if you were there or not. But
I was.
Yeah. I just felt called by Jesus, just to go pray over people. So, like, it felt weird, obviously, but I was just like, a thought would come up to my head when I look at that person, and I went to go pray with them about it. I remember one girl, I went up to her, I didn't know who she was, and like, I was like, I feel like God's calling me to go talk about suicide with her.
Wow.
And she was suicidal, and she told me about it after, but like, I just prayed over her, like, that her life matters and that she should find help and find the thing that really helped her out. And I'm pretty sure she did. I never saw her again, but yeah.
That's incredible.
He just called me to go pray over people. I prayed over like probably 50 or 100 people.
Wow.
Like, just in the room. It was just crazy for like an hour.
That's insane.
But people call it cry night.
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Cry night.
Yes, very popular with that.
Everybody was crying.
Yeah.
But
I didn't have a situation like that when I was in youth group, because my youth group was so small. I grew up in a really small church. We had maybe 150 people on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Whereas Church of the City, we have
thousands.
And so that right there is amazing. And I'm all too familiar with Cry Night. I've been a part of camp for a long time, so I understood what was coming towards Thursday night, the last night that we have there. However,
I feel like it's important though.
It is.
It is important.
It is. But I remember last year just being so different because of what happened with the 7th grade girl, or it was a 6th grade girl. It was someone super young praying over a senior boy because God told her to do so, and then it hit him in every single pain point that he had, and that single testimony that happened that same night was shared throughout the entire youth group of 800, 900 kids, and then the Holy Spirit just entered and just swarmed the entire place.
Yeah.
And
it was beautiful.
It was beautiful. It was, even the leaders were speechless. They were like, wow, like the Holy Spirit showed up.
Yeah, leaders were just in the back. All the kids were doing everything.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I think that's an important thing that we should realize too, going into camp this year, is not expecting something similar, but expecting the Holy Spirit to show up in some way, And I think that we can get caught up in expecting it to look a certain way or a similar way, but the Holy Spirit could show up during color wars. He could show up during worship nights. He can show up during any point at camp, and I'm hoping that he shows up this year too, because that was incredible, and that really affected some of my boys. Like, I know some of my boys were very carefree and like, we're here to have fun, which is totally true. We are there to have fun, but also to meet Jesus. And I think that night, all the guys who were wanting to have the most fun at camp they were speechless, and they were like, I never experienced this before. Some of them got baptized. It was awesome. So that would be an amazing experience. And I'm sure a lot of people listening and watching have experienced that summer camp Cry Night before, and the Holy Spirit moving at camp. It's super awesome. You have something to say? I think that
it's the next thing.
Another thing that we wanted to talk about a little bit was, God using our stories. Even today, and this was kind of a last minute thing that I had. I worked this morning, and then obviously we're doing this episode right now. Yeah. But this morning I had someone share a testimony with me about something very specific to what I've been through. And it was one of those stories where I don't know if you can relate or if anyone listening can relate, but it was one of those stories where someone experienced something almost identical to what I experienced. And I was so focused on what they were saying to where it was kind of like a leaning in my chair kind of moment of what are they going to say next and how did they get out of that situation, because it was exactly what I experienced. And it was such a crazy experience of hearing, okay, she's sharing everything, how I was feeling and what I was going through. She's sharing exactly what God was talking to her about, very similar to what God was telling me. And then as soon as I was in that leaning in my chair, expecting something crazy moment, it was more insane than I thought. And she shared a specific Bible story that 4 different people, when I was going through my situation, 4 different people shared that exact same Bible story with me.
Wow.
And at work, 10 minutes before I was going to leave and come here and get prepared for the rest of my workday, I just broke down and I just started crying. And I was like, I got to remove myself real quick. Sorry, guys. But it was such a real moment of God reminding me that he sees me and that he's working behind the scenes that I don't see every day. And even the days where I'm not focused on him and the days that I'm not pursuing him as much as I should be, he's still working in my life and he's still good and he's still doing things that I don't deserve from him. And that was such a real example for me of going through one of the hardest seasons I've been through in the last year to God reminding me, hey, I see you and I'm there with you and I am growing you and I'm not done with you yet. And I'm still doing things in your life. That desire you have, those dreams, those visions you keep having, I have a plan for you in that. And it was such a cool reminder for me. And have you experienced anything like that I know that your testimony has impacted a lot of people because my coworker's testimony impacted me today. And it was such a, wow, God is so good and he's consistent and he's the same and he does not change. He is the same today as he will be tomorrow, as he was yesterday, and he's always good. Have you experienced, whether that's someone sharing a testimony with you where it's been, wow, that speaks directly to me, or vice versa, you sharing your testimony to someone else and then, it impacting them, very similar to the summer camp experience you mentioned with the girl with suicide. Have you experienced another example of that before in your own life?
I mean, my brother and my dad, they went through pretty much the same thing, being abused. But I was abused when I was 5. And then again when I was almost 13. So just like it happening twice too. Like, what's the point, Yeah. Like it happened twice. Like, it's gonna happen a third time? Like, I was just scared. Like, I didn't know what to expect. Next. So.
Do you still find yourself struggling with that fear of like, is it gonna happen next, or is that something that you've been able to release more of?
Yeah, I think I've released more of it, but yeah, just talking through it and everything. I don't think so. But But I mean, the girl at camp was like a super good reminder of, oh, he's still here, and people do go through the same thing. And I looked up, like, I think the day after going into 2024, like 2023, like New Year's, right after New Year's, like I think it was like 12:05 or something. I looked up the stats. I don't know. Jesus called me, and like I looked up the stats on this suicide and how many people died this year, and it's like 5-10 minutes after, and it was just like crazy how many people, like, just going into 2024, I've already done that. And I was like, man, I have a story to tell, and I wonder if they heard my story, I could have helped. So I started doing podcasts and sharing my story and all that. And that's why that's one of the reasons I want to share it.
Dude, that's huge.
it was an eye-opener for sure.
Yeah. That's actually, I had a similar experience with starting this show. I remember reaching a revelation last year, and it was while I was actually in the book of Revelation, and he was talking about the end times. And I remember just having this really real thought of how many people could I share the gospel with and help save at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Before Jesus comes back, because the Bible says that we're not going to know the date or the time when Jesus returns. So for me, I just realized by me taking each day not to tell people about Jesus and not to impact the kingdom in some way, by not caring about other people enough to do something by telling them about Jesus or sharing my testimony or being encouragement to people, loving on people, whatever it is, by me not producing and doing what I should be doing and what God has called all of his followers to do, how many people are being left behind because I didn't take a stand? And I think that was a big motivator to why I started the show when I did. I think it was kind of a breaking point of, am I going to, the story behind the podcast is really cool. I didn't pay for more than half of the gear that I used when I first started. Yeah. A lot of it was gifted to me from other people because they heard I was starting a podcast and they were wanting to help support. They felt called to give certain gear to me that was hundreds of dollars just to get this thing off and running. And I remember I had all the gear, I was ready to go, but the only thing holding me back was fear and the what if I step into this, what's going to happen? And I remember just God meeting me at that time with that thought of, hey, if he's coming back in a year from now, how many people could I help save if I started the podcast now? And I was like, all right, I'm going to start it right now. That's cool. I don't feel ready. I'm scared. I don't feel prepared. I don't feel qualified. The imposter syndrome was definitely there. And I was like, I don't have a theology degree. I'm not a pastor. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to share my story. I'm going to have other people come on the show and share their story, and hopefully this will bring people to Jesus. And
for sure,
I remember the second episode that we did, I got a call from one of my good friends as I was editing the third one, and he calls me and he says, hey, I just want to let you know I'm friends with this really good couple that they're just getting married, and they just called me and they said, hey, we just listened to Garth's podcast. We don't have a way to reach out to him. Could you tell him that by his second episode, it completely changed our lives when it comes to how we view God and Jesus. Wow. And he called me and he told me that. And I remember just kind of looking at God and being like, okay, I know why I'm doing this. It's powerful. It's not for a paycheck. It's not for attention. It's because God has honestly put a passion in me. I love creating content. I love doing this, but also there was a passion there of, wow, I'm actually giving so much value for people by having people on sharing their story of what God's done in their life. And God is using this show to further his kingdom. And I can tell that, even through your weightlifting too, God is using that weightlifting and what you're doing and your testimony to further his kingdom and to bring people to him. Because at the end of the day, that's such a fulfilling thing. And it is the goal. And yeah, I could go on and on about that, and it's really cool. But I mean, you're 16, you're really young. Why are you so passionate about Jesus?
He saved me. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here if it weren't for him.
What would be your advice to someone who might be your age, might be younger, might be older, who is doubting because they haven't really experienced God save them in such a dramatic way or in such a real way? What would you say to that person if they're kind of on the edge of their faith? I know that's a big question to drop on you, but I'm curious on what you have to say about that.
There's definitely people out there that help, and like a small group leader, for sure. Just walking through find a good solid mentor or small group leader or something. just to walk through life with. And like Sam has been super, like obviously awesome. I have good small group leaders and I've had bad small group leaders, but
yeah,
just finding the good mentors and like those people that can draw you closer to God and ultimately your friends, because your friends determine your future. So
I love that saying. Yeah, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. It's a good one. 100%. Yeah. And I think you going to God in prayer and what you did, I think speaks a lot of volume, because you went to God in prayer, you made it intentional, and you tried and you put in the effort to go to freedom prayer, to talk with God. And I think that shows a lot, because when you put in the effort to seek God out, he will show up. And I think when I was your age, I remember me and my friends did not want to put in the effort. We wanted God to show up for us, but we were not willing to put in the effort to seek him out. And it's that relationship that we didn't understand of, oh, I need to put in the work to seek him out. He's not just going to show up.
It's not one-sided.
Right. He could just show up. He did with, he did with Moses. He did with Paul. Like, he can show up. He 100% can. He can do anything. But there's something to be said about, if you're really desiring God, he might be wanting you to take the first step. He might be wanting you to pursue him. And then you'll be able to, and then he might open your eyes to a bunch of new things that you didn't even realize. And that's something that I've definitely experienced for sure. And man, I mean, we can keep talking about this forever. I think this is awesome. And I just want to say thank you again for coming on the show. JD, it's a huge honor. And honestly, it's super cool for me, because we've talked a lot about how you're in high school and I'm 23, and I love getting to sit here and look at you and remember the times when I was 16 and remember the lessons that I learned and the things that I was doing at 16. And I am very impressed by how you're living your life and how you're loving God and how you are navigating some of the most painful things that a kid your age could go through. And so I really appreciate you reaching out to me as much as you did. I know you reached out quite a bit before I responded, and I appreciate you being consistent in that, because it's been an honor getting to have you come on the show and talk about all this stuff with you. And I really do pray that this will be beneficial for a lot of people, because it's inspiring for me, and I hope it's going to be for other people. But is there any last minute ideas or thoughts that you want to share before you go?
No. I mean, camp was crazy. Like, also realizing, like, life isn't, like, it could be gone any second. Like, if I didn't get to the hospital in time, like, dying at camp would be crazy.
That would be crazy.
But yeah, like, it just, the rest of the week was even more powerful, just realizing that life isn't, like, it could be taken away anytime. But it's super deep. But
no, that's exactly what people need to hear, and I appreciate.
I gotta share Jesus.
100%.
As many people as you can.
Yes, sir. That's right. I love it, man, dude. Well, once again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And for everyone listening and watching, I'm gonna leave JD's Instagram in the bio so you can go check out his page, check out his weightlifting, see his journey, catch up with him, and just see all the amazing things that you're doing. And I think it's awesome. But thank you guys for tuning in. Oh, that is probably a good thing that I should announce, is that there's not going to be an episode next week because we'll be at camp. So just be praying for all of us at camp this next week. Be praying for the leaders, be praying for the students, be praying that we're just going to be able to have a safe time and safely travel there, have a safe time at camp, but that the Holy Spirit will do something really cool and show up again like he did last year. I think it's going to be awesome. But JD, cool. Dude, thanks again for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, man.
Of course, man. Anytime.